You're listening to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast, episode number 113. Change. Are you feeling it yet? Sometimes you need a swift kick in the you-know-what to start that engine. There's no shame in bringing out the big guns. So let me share 5 of my favorite quotes to help you get your change on. Welcome to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast. I'm your host, Krylyn Peters. Each week, I bring you inspiring messages to help you create the life you're meant to lead. Buckle up, buttercups. Hey, Fear Busters, welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm going to be sharing my favorite quotes with you that all relate to change. And if you would like to get a copy of those, plus a whole bunch more, I actually put together a list of 34 as I was preparing for this episode. So if you want all 34 of the quotes that I found to help support you in making changes, go to download the handout at krylyn.com/113. That's KRYLYN.com/113, and you will have those all at your fingertips, and you don't have to frantically write anything down or try and Google it while you're listening to me. Anyway, so today it's really all I'm going to do is talk about my the 5 top ones that I picked out of this long list of 34 that I came up with. And then we're going to just see where the conversation leads, because that's how I roll. So the first quote that I absolutely had to include in here is from Gandhi. And this one is, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." And this is such a profound quote because it talks about, or it speaks to, the responsibility we all have. And I'm going to just say something here, and I'm going to just show my humanness, because I know we all think this at times, and that is, sometimes it really sucks to have that much responsibility. I remember going through some significant changes in my relationship with my mom before she passed away several years ago. And I was having some resentments about being the one who needed to make the changes, or the one who needed to make the first move. And I just was in my crap about it. And I just thought, this is so unfair that it all comes down to me. The thing about it is, though, that we all do have a responsibility. If we want things to be better, it is our responsibility. So on the flip side of that, if we are not unhappy or dissatisfied with the way things are, then there's really nothing for us to do. So responsibility is something that we can take as a wonderful thing to let us understand where the edges of our comfort lie, where the edges of our satisfaction lie. And it's also a wonderful thing because when we start to make changes, it affects everyone around us. And it may not happen immediately, but there is always that ripple effect that happens when we start to make changes. So those are the thoughts that come up as I look at this quote and kind of think about what I have heard it used for and the times that I have turned to this quote in my life. So really talking about that responsibility that we all have to be that change and to not expect it to come from other people. If it does come from other people, great. If not, then it's us. It's all on us. And it can be a scary and a wonderful thing at the same time. So that is one of my favorite quotes. That's quote number 1. The second quote that I absolutely love is from Abraham Maslow. And I studied him extensively when I was in my undergrad on the hierarchy of needs, self-actualization. So just a little background on him. He's a psychologist, or he was a psychologist. And this quote is this: "What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself." Love it. I talk so much about awareness, right? Awareness is the first step along any change journey. And we have this immense need to skip this step. Or I don't know if it's a need to skip it, but we have the inclination to want to skip this step. We want to just be the change, right? We want to just get right to the change, but we have got to know where we're starting from. We have to have an awareness. And here's the thing, is if we don't have that awareness, we may not recognize that we want to change or that we need to change in order to survive. So that first step is absolutely key. And I know a lot of us want to assign awareness to other people. And let me explain that. We want other people to be aware of where they need to change, right? So that's another way that we kind of distract ourselves from our own change, is that we want other people, we want to help others, right? In a very altruistic way. We want to help other people become aware of their need to change. And how often does that work successfully? I would guess pretty much zero amount of times. Sometimes it does help to point things out, I will admit. However, in the grand scheme of things, this is typically what happens when you are arguing with someone, when you're in a disagreement with someone, and typically someone you're very close to. So it could be a partner, a spouse, could be a child, and you're just telling them what's wrong, right? You're telling them, this is what's wrong with you, you need to change, and you're trying to just make them aware. You're trying to do this wonderful act of giving your knowledge and your expertise and wisdom to the other person, and all they hear is what's wrong with them and what you don't like. So that's another thing. I never know where I'm going to go with this stuff. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head about what's coming up for me as I'm sharing these quotes with you. And that's definitely one of the things that came up is our wanting to have other people be really aware. However, we need to turn that around. We need to focus the awareness on ourselves. And it can be uncomfortable to do that. It can leave us feeling very vulnerable, very fearful, and opening wounds. It can be very scary that way. However, it's necessary. In order to make any changes, we have to be aware. We have to be completely honest and aware of the space that we're at from the beginning of the journey. Because how are we going to know how successful we are in that process? On the other side of it, when we have reached the goal, how are we going to know really and appreciate how successful we are and what we've gone through to get there? How are we going to appreciate that if we don't know where we've started from? So that is what I have to say about that lovely quote. The third one is another one that I have used for several years. I absolutely love it. And this one is attributed to Henry Ford, who said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." I love that one because it speaks to the power we have over our outcomes. When we believe in ourselves, when we believe that something can be done, then we make it happen. And on the flip side, when we believe it cannot be done, what we do is we draw in the obstacles. So the law of attraction is really at play with this particular quote. When we are aligned with the belief that it can be done, what we do is we attract what is necessary for it to get done. And on the other side of that coin, when we are aligned with the belief that something cannot be done, we are attracting that it cannot be done. So we're attracting the obstacles, the challenges, the difficulty, all the problems that are going to get in the way of that being able to get done. And then when we do that, so on either side, so I'm going to start over here where we believe that something can be done, and then all the things happen, and all the law of attraction is at work, and we're aligned, and the resources and the support comes for us to be able to achieve that, then we can be right. Yes, see, I knew it could be done. But on this side, if we are of the alignment of it not being able to be done, and then all these obstacles come up, then we can be like, see, it can't be done. And then we can be right about that. So you can be right about whatever you want to be right about, because you are aligned with that energy and you are attracting that back to you. So this is what I love about this quote, because it speaks to that law of attraction, which is so imperative when it comes to making any change. And it's something that I talk about all the time in my teachings, in my coaching, with my clients, and just all around in my life, because I have lived this philosophy on both sides of the coin, yes, as I know we all have, in attracting either what we do want or what we don't want to us. So that is my number 3 top quote. Number 4 is by Frederick Douglass and goes like this: if there is no struggle, there is no progress. And this one I threw in here because there is struggle in change. Now, when I first started this change series, I talked about the myth of change being hard. And I talked a lot about how it's our perception. So when I put this quote in here, I was thinking about that. And I was like, oh, someone's going to say, oh, you're, contradicting yourself. However, what I wanted to say about it is that we do perceive struggle, right? And struggle could mean anything from that belief that change is hard, but it can also just be in that place of dissatisfaction that I talked about in a couple episodes ago about dealing with the dissatisfaction around change. So we talk about the idea of things not being where we want them to be. There is intrinsically a struggle there. Whether it's like this huge belief that, oh my gosh, we're never going to be able to do this, all the way to, I'm not quite satisfied, I want to change it. So I chose to keep this in here because I knew that it was really relevant to no matter where you fall in the spectrum of belief about change and how easy or hard it is. I talked about this in a recent episode, not only the one on dissatisfaction, but the one right before that talked about the new paradigm of change. So the old paradigm had to do with pain and pleasure, and then the new paradigm has to deal with dissatisfaction. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, I definitely suggest you do, and I will go ahead and put that link to that episode in the show notes for this episode so that you can easily go back to it and listen if you so choose. So anyway, that is what I wanted to say about that particular quote. I think it's a very wonderful thing to talk about that struggle. So no matter how that struggle looks for you, but the fact that we need to have some of that tension. And maybe that's the word that I think I'm actually in love with that word right now in relation to what I'm talking about. So there needs to be some tension in order for us to make the progress. Because if there's no tension, if we're in the place of being comfortable and that not being a la land Pollyanna view of I'm comfortable because I don't want to deal with stuff versus the I'm comfortable because I'm comfortable. Okay, so there's a difference there. But if you're in that place of I'm comfortable because, really this is where I need to be right now and I don't feel like I need to change, that is fabulous. However, if you have some of that tension going on, like it's not quite where I want to be, it's close, but it's not quite where I want to be, you need that tension in order to propel yourself into the progress, into the change. So that's why I picked this quote, is to help us understand a little bit about that struggle and that tension. And then the last quote I wanted to share with you is this one from Vincent Peale. And I, as someone who is trained in cognitive behavioral therapy and someone who uses a lot of thought repatterning techniques in my coaching practice, this is like one of the best quotes for me to tell you what I really think about change. So here it is in the words of Norman Vincent Peale. Change your thoughts and you change your world. I truly believe that. I truly believe that we have the ability to change our thoughts. And not just because it's a really cool quote, but because I've seen it in action. In my own life, I've seen myself be able to change how I think about things. I've seen myself be able to change the actual thoughts that I have and be able to recognize the harmful thoughts and change them on a dime. And then I've also been able to help other people through my coaching practice and formerly as a therapist to deal with this as well. It's really the crux of a lot of the work that I do is really helping people identify where they're getting stuck in their thinking and help them shift that around to be in a much better place, a more aligned and positive place to be able to attract what you need in order to make the changes that you want. So that is why I absolutely had to include that quote in my top 5 as well. To get all 34 of the quotes I put together for this episode, go grab them at krylyn.com/113. That's KRYLYN.com/113. And I hope that they inspire you along your change journey. Thanks for listening to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast. If you've been inspired, please share the podcast with your friends. You can find us on iTunes or at Krylyn.com. KRYLYN.com.